questions, some really good questions. Tried to narrow it down. We had the best representation. And we've got some really good ones here tonight. So here are the rules. You guys are going to have 3 minutes for your opening statements. And then we're going to go ahead and start with the questions. There's 2-minute answers for each of you. There are no rebuttals. And then we're going to fit in as many questions as we possibly can. At the end of that, then you'll have 3 minutes for a closing statement. If you need to address any rebuttals at that time, then that's the time to do it. So those are the rules. Failure to abide by those rules means that you have to go spend the evening with Nancy Pelosi listening to why and how she chooses her gourmet ice cream. So far, no one's lived through that.
We will follow the rules.
Gary Cruz is our timekeeper. He will let you know how you're doing, and when you get to 30 seconds, he's got a reminder to let you know on that. Okay, one more reminder in case you didn't do it, and any late stragglers, please silence your phones. If you fail to do so, you're going to have the same punishment I just referenced. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and get started here. Right on down the line. There we go. Okay, first question.
Opening statement?
Oh, I did it again. See, this is why I just need to stay home. All right, so opening statement, please go ahead and start.
Well, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity again. This marks number 15 of these that we've done in the last 15 or 16 months. So some of it I'll probably skip, hoping that you've heard from me before. I will say that I believe that all three of us have similar ideas in terms of the passion we share for the community, but we have different ways that we're going to go about this. I came here in 1982, and I came from Northwest Pennsylvania. I was 22 years old, and I saw Volusia County the first time was when I was not quite 16 years old, and it was in February, and I left Pennsylvania, it was 0, and in Florida it was 70. So I'm like, okay, this isn't a hard decision, right? So I got here as fast as I could, and decided to, this is where I was gonna call home. And it's been a great decision. I grew up in a time when we were taught that if you played fair, if you were courageous, if you had integrity, if you spoke the truth, if you were honest, kind of the old my word is my bond time, that you could get a taste of the American dream. And I'm not real sure that I understood what the American dream was. I just knew that there was something that the opportunity was better. And as time marched on, I learned what the American dream was all about. And in the beginning, as a young person, I think I viewed the American dream as what could happen for me, what I could get out of the American dream. Not long, it didn't take very long to figure out that what the American dream was really all about was what you could do for other people. That's where the true joy of the American dream comes. I heard the invocation tonight, thank you very much. David Santiago's remarks about being civil and about being, remember, we may be apart today. We're apart today as we're all trying to run for election for a seat. But when it's over, we have to beat the other party, right? And we have to we have to come together. And it does matter how we disagree. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to disagree. But how we disagree is going to determine how fast we can get on the same page and get work done. So my goal is to listen to what I heard in the invocation, listen to the remarks of David Santiago tonight, and so that we all may learn and get a piece of the American dream. Live in a free place, live in a safe place, have an opportunity to have economic prosperity. We talk a lot about things in our community, and we don't talk a lot about how to do economic prosperity. I listened to 6 grandkids, really? Okay, so I have 2, so you need to get busy, okay? But I have my children here and my grandchildren are here, and I want them to be able to understand what the American dream is all about too. I don't want them to have to chase it someplace else across the country. That must mean it's over. Is that what it means? Gary? Yep. Okay. I didn't look at you, so I'm sorry. But are we done?
We're done.
Okay, we're done. Thank you all. I don't want to hear it ever again, so I'll be.
You won't shut up.
Gary, you're on your way to going to see Nancy.
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
tell you what. Heck with that.
So you're going to Plan B?
One Josh.
Okay. My name is Jeff Brower. I am your current Volusia County Chair. So this is my 3.5, almost 3.25 years of serving you. It's been one of the best experiences in my life and one of the most challenging. Since we're talking about civility, I will tell you that as chair, one of the hardest things to do sometimes as chair of the Volusia County Council is to keep civility just on the council. So I'm kind of used to that. This is a nonpartisan race. Everybody running is a Republican. So there won't be uniting around the party afterwards. In fact, we're not even allowed to tell people when they ask us what party you're in. I said, I can't tell you that. It's against the law. But you could ask me who I voted for president, which is always risky. But in Volusia County, it's a pretty good risk. I voted for President Trump. I think he still is our president. I am an unapologetic Republican. I believe in the principles of the Republican Party, which are lower taxes, smaller government, and get the hell out of your life. And so that's where I think we should go. That's where I try to focus. I also think that as an elected official in America, in a republic, that my chief responsibility is to protect your God-given, constitutionally protected rights. It has to start at the city and the county level, go to the state and go to Washington, because it ain't happening in Washington. So it's going to have to percolate up. We have to protect your rights. They're being stripped away every single day. And so that's how I approach it. I ran for a number of reasons. I have a farm. My family has a farm in DeLeon Springs. We raise organic vegetables, chickens, beef cows, dairy cows, kids. My best crop is kids. My wife Terry, who couldn't be here tonight, she's never gets sick. She's been sick all week, and she just texted me and she said she's finally up. So thank you for your prayers, those of you that knew she was not feeling well, and please keep praying for her because she doesn't get sick. Having 9 kids that she blessed me with, and I think 13 grandkids. They just starting to come along. We'll have 100 someday. That's one of the reasons that I ran, is that I want my kids to be able to stay here, to be able to afford to live here, to find good jobs, and to not give all their money back to the government. And so hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about that, how creating jobs, keeping taxes, making taxes lower. I was going to say keeping them low. I don't think we're quite there yet. So thank you very much, and listen closely.
I love that one. Which I think is probably a good thing.
Just as long as that's not a Democrat quack, we're okay. Well, good evening, everybody. My name's Don Burnett. I am the current mayor over in Port Orange, have been for the last 8 years, and I can tell you from my service that making a difference in our community in so many different ways is something that drives all of us, and that's what we want to do. And there are many different approaches to that. I have certainly seen the impact of that being on my council. I've served with 2 former police officers, a former firefighter, a teacher, people from all walks of life who've served with me, and certainly the one thing they have is a type A personality. When you're serving with people and you who've been elected, there's no doubt about it, these are opinionated people. And being able to orchestrate that and make sure that we have civil conversation, knowing that you probably have a preconceived notion of your own, being able to be flexible and change your mind in light of hearing a good argument, but making sure that those 5 type A personalities are managed well. I don't always get what I want, but at the end of the day, my city gets what it needs because we do it the right way. That's kind of what I'd like to bring to Volusia County. I think we've got a lot of good moving parts in this county, and I think we can move that forward. Let's bring it together. There are some things that I would like to do. I would certainly like to see our ambulance service get better. The cities have really propped up service and adding ambulance to our fire departments to help prop that up. We have not grown the system. It's actually shrunk in the last 10 years. And certainly, if nothing else, my dad taught me at a very young age. I was born in Florida. I'm sure there are a few people in the room that were born here, but a lot of people came here by choice. Nobody does anything big alone. We need to do it as a team. We need to do it as a family. We needed to do it as a community, and that's what this is all about for all of us. So hopefully you'll hear some good things from all 3 of us tonight. I'm not going home until the last person does. So if you want to hit me up afterwards, I'll be here. Thank you.
All right, now's the time for questions. Okay. Okay, I will read these as written and I will repeat if needed, no problem there. So we'll go ahead and just get started here. Randy, if you want to start us off. All right, first question. Describe how your career has prepared you to lead Volusia County both politically and economically.
That's a great question. So I came here first as an employee of a dealership. Fortunately, I had the benefit of working under a tremendous individual, Ed Lacey. If you've been a DeLand resident for a very long time, you'll know who he is. And he taught a lot more about the business, but he also taught about life. So he's a great mentor. I bought my own business in 1997, so we'll start year number 28 on September 1st of this year. It was a little small business. It was on International Speedway Boulevard. We didn't own the property. We rented the property. It was about 3 acres in space, and the facility was just about 10,000 square feet. It was not very pretty, but we've grown over the years, and we've done it very systematically, and so to the point now where we have, I think it's 7 brands. 7 brands, and about 450,000 square feet and about 150 employees, and right at 27 acres. When you go through that kind of experience, and when you grow that, and you have to be responsible for people's lives, and we go through COVID, and we have to make allowances for that. And in 2007 and 2008, the financial crisis hit. Chrysler back then filed bankruptcy. We didn't, but they did, and we had to figure out our way through all of that. I've served on several, and still do, I'm trustees on several boards, and for the underserved, I currently serve on the board of trustees with the Daytona State College. One of the greatest things about that we've accomplished, 14 years of no tuition increase, and that's pretty incredible. So. Managed lots of budgets, done lots of things. Is that it, Gary?
That's it.
Okay, all right. I didn't recognize the quack that time.
You need me to repeat, or you can go to the question?
I think I remember the question.
Okay.
I'll be good. How does your career prepare you for this? Well, life prepared me for it. I mentioned that I had 9 kids. Didn't always have 9 kids, of course. I wasn't born here. I think Don was the only one born here, but I got here as quick as I could. I had an older brother who told me that how great Daytona Beach was, but my dad wouldn't let me hitchhike, so he brought me when I was 3 years old, and we've lived here ever since. I've worked as a kid. I started my first business when I was 12 years old. I mowed lawns, like a lot of you did. Not the way they do it now, and some of you, as I look around the room, will understand what I'm about to say, that we mowed lawns where you pushed a mower. It was not self-propelled. We had a edger that we had to push ourselves. There was no such thing as a blower. We had brooms. So I learned the value of hard work, and I learned the value of making something more beautiful than when you started with it. I've worked on the beach for 10 years. As a lifeguard, I learned the value of human life and being alert to take care of people. Went to the University of Florida for my first love, which I've had all of my life, which is working in the dirt, growing stuff, and got a degree in horticulture and landscape design and landscaping. Came out and started a landscape company with my sons. I've done other work with my sons, but we started a landscape company. We build outdoor rooms, tree houses, lighting, all kinds of stuff. I love working with my kids. What it taught me is that government regulations strangulate business. In our farm, there was farms like mine getting shut down all over the country because they wouldn't allow consenting adults like you to buy directly from a farm. One of the products that we sell is raw milk, and the state of Florida won't let us sell raw milk unless you put a label on it that says for pet food consumption only. Government is too big. They need to trust your decisions and my decisions. That's why I got involved with government.
Gary, we get what, 5 minutes?
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm thinking first I got some wisdom.
Well, I can certainly say that what Mr. Brower said about life preparing you, it really is true. I honestly can say that my dad has been a hero of mine my entire life. He still is. Taught me the way to live, the way to work hard. I went to school. I did get my master's degree in business administration. I've worked in insurance. I've worked in restaurants. In the last 20 years, I've worked as a residential lender, helping people and young couples get into homes. And I'm seeing the problems that they're dealing with right now with out-of-control costs in housing. So there are things that we need to do there. I've been on the Salvation Army Advisory Board in Daytona Beach the last 22 years. I've been involved in Volusia County Schools, even though my last son graduated in 19. Don't tell Atlantic High School that I actually enjoy being their stadium announcer for football and basketball, because I don't want them to know that. They might find somebody else. But it is an absolute joy being able to do those things and interact with people. That's where I find out doing all those things, what matters. I was Tourism Champion of the Year for the Southeast Volusia Tourism Bureau 2 years ago. I've been Business Partner of the Year for the Port Orange South Daytona Chamber. I've been Business Affiliate Partner of the Year twice for the Daytona Beach Area Association of Realtors. Those things, because of my involvement, I've been running their Adopt-a-School committee for the last 13 years, doing backpack drives and the like. What it is, it's all about involvement in many different ways. And certainly my experience in Port Orange, running what I consider a class government. We have one of the top 20 safest cities consistently in the state of Florida. Public safety is all about good police, good fire, and an active, engaged citizenry. And we have that in Port Orange. We have that in Volusia County. And I want to be able to engage you to make this county better. Thank you.
All right. We can go ahead, Jeff, if you want to start off on this one. Question number 2. What is the most important issue you perceive the county council is facing or will be facing in the near future?
Overdevelopment is the most important issue that
Take your time and think about it.
and all the problems that come from that. I do town halls. When I ran the first time, I promised citizens I'd do town halls in every district in the county, and I have done that. Every time I go, we take pieces of paper, pass them out, and say, please write the top 3 concerns that you have for our county. I don't care where I am, it's the same 3. Sometimes the order's a little different, but almost always, number 1, overdevelopment. Number 2 is flooding and water quality because of the way we're developing. And number 3 is taxes going up to try and pay for the overdevelopment because the developers aren't paying for it, to pay for the overdevelopment and to improve the water quality. We have to change the way that we're currently developing. I've had the same plan for 3.5 years. It's not difficult. When somebody buys a piece of property, they have the right to do whatever, we have private property rights in America. They have the right to do with that property whatever it's zoned for. They don't have a right, but they have an opportunity to come before a city or a county council and say, I want the zoning changed to increase density, so instead of 1 house per 10 acres, I can put 24 houses or 74 apartments or whatever it is. The best way to stop it is just to learn to say no. We're at a point on the county council where I typically have 3 votes that say, no, you can do what the zoning was, but we're not changing it to something else because our planners have said this area should be low density, this area should be agriculture. There's a reason for that. You don't want a fuel farm in your backyard. You don't want some kind of a toxic dump in a residential neighborhood. That's why we have zoning. So we just need to learn to say no. It's not that difficult. And I'm going to stop there.
Well, I'm going to echo part of what the chairman just said about overdevelopment, and I'm going to say that the county is responsible for a lot of that. We have 17 agencies, 16 cities in the county issuing building permits. Nobody issued more than the county itself except for the city of Daytona last year, 727 residences. We added $43.8 million to the budget without, you can go to rollback when you have that much development and you're adding $43.8 million to your budget. So I'd like to know where that money went, what we're spending it on, where we were before. Now, granted, I know Bidenomics, things don't cost what they used to, and the price of providing the services is not the same as it once was. $43.8 million is a lot of money. 727 residences, that's a lot of residences under the rules that exist right now. So right now, the county is at the forefront of that overdevelopment. That needs to change, it really does. And it's about more just saying no. It's about, we need to preserve land because once a developer has it, it's gone. It's gonna be developed. It's a matter of how and how we regulate it. But once that land is gone, that's it. We need to be buying land at the core of our county. 1/5 of all the land in preservation in this county is held by the city of Port Orange. We've got over 12,000 acres of land in preservation. We've got our water well fields out there. We dump exactly 0 gallons of water and reclaimed water into our river. And I know a city to the north of me that still dumps millions of gallons every day into that river, and it flows right by us. We need to do better. We need to do it better collectively. And what it's going to take is a focal approach, not just the county doing it better, but the county working with the city, so we take a unified approach. Because if one city says yes and another says no, and the county's doing it differently, you're just going to, as a developer or whatever it is, you're just going to go where you can get your yes. So we need to go at this, and we need to add accountability so that we can prevent things like a fuel farm coming in like it is. Thank you.
So to make sure that I'm right, you said the #1 issue facing the county council.
Right, what is the most important issue you perceive the county council is facing or will be facing in the near future?
Okay.
Currently or in the near future?
All right. I mean, I would say the #1 issue facing the community is public safety, but you said county council. Okay. So I would say that we have definitely a challenge as it relates to the development. And you can call it overdevelopment, you can call it whatever we want to call it, the growth. Clearly, the way it's been done over the last several years has created chaos. And I will tell you that while I acknowledge what the mayor said, part of that wasn't an organic growth. We had an explosive growth in Volusia County when COVID happened. If you were living in Pennsylvania where I grew up, or Michigan where you guys grew up, or Ohio, you got tired of being closed. And you said, I'm not gonna be closed, and I'm not gonna let somebody tell me we're gonna be closed. You're gonna come to Florida where we're open, and it's free, and we're gonna live our life. So it was an awful lot of growth in a short amount of time. And so we've got to figure out how to manage it. I would agree with the mayor. It's not as simple as saying no. When somebody comes before the county council and they get and they request a variance, and they're told no, we have to support and have legitimate reasons for that. Otherwise, what happens is they go to court and they get a judge to see it their way, and it could be considered discriminatory. You've got to have good reasons for it. So my plan is to try to help shift this residential growth to commercial growth. And commercial growth is a part of an economic plan. An economic plan is going to provide good jobs. All right, and I do want to be careful. I want to say something that's very, very important here. If we limit too much growth, we all talk about affordable housing. What drives the price of housing? Availability. So you got to be careful about what we wish for here. Okay.
Okay, Don, you're gonna start us off on question number 3. Where do you stand on raising property taxes?
You don't need to raise property taxes. You're adding $43.8 million to your budget just by doing a rollback. It's not necessary. Can we spend it better? Yeah, absolutely. Do you need to roll up your sleeves and take a look at the things that you're spending that money on so that we're gaining the efficiencies that we can long-term? And not just, are we investing money this year in things that are going to give us benefit years on down the road? Absolutely. So it's the one thing that you have to do when you're looking at a budget that is hardest when you're an elected official, is you have short-term views a lot of times. How can I get the most out of it right now? You also have to take a 1, 3, and a 5-year approach so that I'm getting the most out of my budget dollars later on down the road as well. Because sometimes if you don't spend your money well now and you do something on the cheap, you spend even more later for it. And we've seen some of that in government, and I certainly have seen that in my experience as mayor of Port Orange. So we're fine. Our tax rate, I think we can tweak it down even a little bit more. If you've got that kind of growth going on, we're fine.
Okay, Randy?
I think, yeah, it would be the most insensitive thing in the world to do to raise taxes in the environment that we're in right now. So that's not even open for discussion. I do think, but how are you going to keep them down? That's really the part of the conversation. And I think commercial, attracting commercial development, commercial growth, good paying jobs, that pays the tax bill, right? The other thing is when you have a $1.3 billion budget, which our county has, I'm sure that there are places in there that we can be a little bit more efficient about how that money's spent. That's an important part of this piece. I'm not criticizing the county council, I'm not criticizing the county staff, but a different set of eyes collaboratively, I'm sure we can find some money and allocate it. You're never gonna hear from me a blanket 10% decrease in our budget, because invariably somebody that probably needs more resources is getting hurt in that process, and somebody that has too many resources, they probably need to cut. So the way I look at that is you always cut the fat and not cut the muscle. Okay, that's important. So, taxes are, they're a function of the community. What does the community want? Now, we always want everything for nothing, right? I mean, that's kind of the way we go. We want the most for the least. And so that, we know. But we have to prioritize. We have to prioritize what's important. Core government responsibilities will lead to lower taxes. If we're good stewards of the people's money, the people's resources, the people's land, the people's water, we'll be able to do a better job, and we can ensure, if we're efficient, that the tax increases are not in our future. I don't believe that they need to be.
Yeah, I will never vote to increase property taxes or the sales tax. I think it's just you don't own your house. If you think you do, just don't pay your taxes for a month, and somebody will come to your front door. You see in the newspaper, in the news journal, every single year, there's like 16 pages in very fine print of people's taxing bills tax bills delinquent, going up for sale, that could lose their homes. It's disgusting, it's disgraceful. So I will not do that. I did call for a percentage cut. When I ran the first time, I called for 5%. I learned something from that it was a good idea. Because when I got elected, the staff had heard me and they were already working on reducing taxes. I also did something else. I went to the public and we filled the chambers with people demanding that their taxes be lowered. You lowered the taxes that year. You lowered your own taxes because government will be responsible to the public when you speak up enough. So the next year I didn't ask for a percentage, and actually the last 5 years the county's millage rate has come down a little bit every year, but your taxes go up a lot every year because your property values are going up. So this year, because of that, because of 10,000 people a day moving into Florida, I said, let's cut 10%. I didn't get support from the county council on that, but the county manager heard me. He knew where I was going. He said, okay, we will bring you a budget that's not just a rollback, which means you don't pay any more than you paid last year, but you'll actually pay less taxes on your property this year. We're almost there. 2 meetings ago, when we were voting on the millage rate, 4 council members voted to increase the millage rate, which means they voted to increase your taxes. We have 2 more chances to correct that. Write us all and tell us to correct that mistake.
All right, question number 4. Randy, we're back to you starting it off. Okay. Name at least one program or department within Volusia County that needs to have its funding reduced or eliminated altogether.
Yeah, I would just say this. I'm probably not going to give you a specific department. I would say that it would need to be a top to bottom review. I'm sure we can find something, and if you think about what I said about core government responsibility, there's a lot of stuff that we do that is outside of core government responsibility. So I would say that there's probably several, but if we prioritize public safety, which is critical, if we prioritize infrastructure and those items, and then we can take a look at a lot of other things. So without having the budget in front of me, I'm not going to be able to give you a specific department, but I would say overall, I focus on core government responsibility, and I know there's a lot of things that beyond that we could cut.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really the reason that I went for a percentage, but I can tell you one that I would eliminate, maybe 2. It won't make that big of an impact on the budget, but it just shouldn't be done. We pay welfare workers to sit in every one of our libraries to find people that can go on public welfare, which also costs us money. That's not a function of the libraries. It may be because there's a lot of homeless people hang out there to get out of the cold, to get out of the heat, or whatever. God bless them. I don't hold that against them. But we shouldn't be out looking for people to put on welfare, because I guarantee you, as county chair, I get requests every day for people looking for help, and there's help available, and the county gives it to them, to pay their rent, to buy food, to rebuild their house. There's all kinds of needs. I would eliminate that because it's redundant. We have so much redundancy. When I called for a 5% and a 10% reduction, both times I said we will hold public safety harmless. I will not cut the budget of the sheriff's department, the EMS, ambulance service, the lifeguards, even correction officers and firefighters. We can't reduce, that is the responsibility of local government. And as more and more 10,000 people a day moving into Florida, we need to make those, when you call an ambulance, you need to know that it's coming there. Our response times right now are really, really good. It's like almost 3 minutes below the national standard of 9 minutes. It's about 6 minutes and 18 seconds. I want to keep it that way, and you don't keep it that way by reducing the budget. So, yeah, I kind of like percentages. In a $1.2 billion budget, there's stuff that you can cut just a little bit from everyone to get to where you need to go.
Well, this is where accountability comes in. And my first blush is, on an impulse, I'd like to say our building department, because that's where we had people come in and make an inquiry, and before you knew it, we had an air permit being prepped before the county staff knew about Belvedere Fuel Farm long before our council did. So you need accountability for things like that. And if you don't have accountability, then you've got to believe certain departments like that are spending at will. Now, there are some things we don't necessarily have to spend more on, but we do have to spend on better. The busiest beach weekend of the year in July, we have lifeguard towers that were unmanned. And the chairman's right. We have an ambulance service that has great response times because we got half a dozen cities that have added ambulances. My city's answering calls in Ormond Beach, Orange City. We're answering calls in Ponce Inlet because Ponce Inlet's unit is up in Ormond Beach. So collectively, we need to find a way to do it better. Absolutely, there are ways to do that better. 2 months ago, there were 19 openings in EMS for paramedics. So are we spending better? Or spending more is not the answer. We do have to spend better so that we add those efficiencies. The things that we're doing in EMS to improve are essential. Short-term solutions are good while you work on the long-term solutions. We need to expand EMS. It's the same size or smaller than it was 10 years ago. And how many more people do we have living in Volusia County? We need to look forward. We need to look 3, 5, 10 years out, not just what we need next year for programs like that, because both these guys are right. Public safety is job one. And you need to know that when somebody comes to take care of you, I send a paramedic and a fire truck, instead of saying, hey, I'll wait with you until that ambulance arrives. Now we can say in our city, we'll take you right now. And we need to find ways to do that.
Jeff, you're up on this one, and this one is kind of, you can now elaborate. So it's name at least one program or department within Volusia County that needs to have its funding increased. And how would you pay for that increase?
That's pretty interesting, and I think I just alluded to it. We do have a lifeguard shortage, and it's not because county staff is not out looking for lifeguards. We just promoted a 22-year lifeguard to chief of that division. She's an excellent person. She has worked her blonde hair off trying to get, like, we go to every high school, the college swim teams, everywhere. And I met with lifeguards for about 3 months last summer to find ways, what do you need, what would help to attract more lifeguards? And so we sat there and came up with, we had old guards like me that used to work many years ago and young guards. And we came up with a list, took them to the county manager, and he said, I like this. And we will incorporate that. One of the things that we asked for is increase the pay. And they did, but not nearly enough. They increased the pay to $17 an hour, and I want $20 an hour. That'll help bring some in. What they also did was to bring a signing bonus to those people. The problem with hiring lifeguards, though, is less with the tower guards. The career guards, they have good benefits. They're pretty happy. The tower guards that work on weekends and summers in season, it's a hard, hot job. They need more money. They'll come to recruit training, and when they hear one thing, you can't have your cell phone on your tower, they don't come back again. So there's some social challenges because of a changing environment. But we still have to go out and find them. I think with increased pay, that'll help. So public safety almost always needs more money.
Okay.
Certainly, I agree with that when we're talking about our lifeguards, and I alluded to that as well. And when we take a look at our ambulance service, when you put 3 people in an ambulance in a box for 12 hours, that's a hard job. You gotta be able to keep them, and when you've got experienced people, you don't wanna lose them. So, is compensation gotta be taken a look at? Absolutely. But let's also face this. We have 19 units where you have advanced life support, and you can't run all 19 units because you don't have enough people. You're running basic life support because you've only got 2 people running 5 of those 19 units, and you've got somebody running around the county catching up to emergency calls so you can have that 3rd person. That's a short-term solution that works because it's important right now, but we need more long-term solutions. Integration with the dynamic deployment along with static deployment with the cities. There's a lot of things that we can do where we can gain efficiencies and pay for things like this. But that's a hard job that people do. Matter of fact, a lot of times you'll see them in the Wawa, you'll see them in the 7-Eleven. Thank them. Buy them their coffee. Do the little things for them. Because really, they're some of the unsung heroes of this county. They work as hard as anybody. So that's one of the things that I would say that we really need to look at, not just whether we're spending enough, but how we're spending the money.
Randy?
So, this is an interesting time of the year. What goes on this time of year? Going back to school, right? We're going back to school. And so it was at the end of the school year, this year, that we recently lost a child at a crossing guard in the school area. And so, and look, I'm not standing up here gonna place blame on any individual, but if I could do one thing, and I know that there's a debate between, is it the school's responsibility, is it the city's responsibility? Look, it's all of our responsibility. The safety of children going to and from school, going to crosswalks, they're not paying attention. We either need to train people up better than what we've got, which may mean we need to pay more money, or we need to transfer the responsibility to some version of a public safety officer that will ensure that our kids get to and from school safely. And there's no excuse. We're the adults, right? If we don't take care of our kids in this process, nobody will, and it's gotta be a priority. What happened was a tragedy. It shouldn't have happened. It didn't need to happen. And I don't wanna, we need to learn from it though, right? And we need to make sure that we fund those areas so that our kids are safe going to and from school.
Okay.
All right, Don, I think you're up next, aren't you?
You're the one.
Yeah, okay. Number 6, what is your plan to deal with the rising homelessness in Volusia County?
Well, there you have a national problem because of certain things that are going on with national politics, and we are paying the price for it. Certainly, particularly, I feel bad for the city of Daytona Beach because a judge just ruled that homeless people have more rights than you and I, and took away their ability to use a sensible panhandling ordinance that was in place to provide public safety for everyone. So some of these things are within our control. Like I said, national problem. I can't control what a judge does or doesn't do. The things that we can do is most certainly, I have encouraged, and particularly in my role as, I'm also on the First Step Shelter Board of Directors. I'm currently the vice chair. When somebody gives money to a panhandler, 4/5 of that money is going to fuel their bad habits. Now, it's hard because you have a compassionate heart, and there's the person in front of you. And then you see them again tomorrow, and then you see them again in 2 weeks, and you see them again in a month, and nothing is changing no matter what you do. But every time they get another dollar, 4/5 of that dollar is going for their bad habits. If you give that same dollar to a homeless shelter or the Salvation Army or some of these organizations, HUM, that concentrate on these things, not only is all of those dollars concentrated on making sure that help goes where it's needed, they also have greater buying power. So instead of buying a sandwich at 7-Eleven, your dollar is buying 10 sandwiches at a homeless shelter. It's just something that collectively we're just going to have to really roll up our sleeves and work on. And the biggest challenge right now is for our police departments. They're taking the brunt of this right now because of what judges have done by handcuffing our good police officers and saying what they can and cannot do. They're not allowed to use common sense. So we need to stand up and advocate for them loudly.
So, I think one of the things that we gotta figure out, you realize that some people that are homeless actually wanna be homeless, right? And that's, but the ones that we're talking about that don't wanna be homeless, we'll narrow this down to the people who don't wanna be homeless. They've got a tragedy in their life, something has occurred, bad circumstances happen to good people all the time. And I think we've definitely got to create an environment where they have resources. But I want to say to you that the government is not necessarily always the answer to this. I know that in our church we have a program to help feed the homeless. There's other organizations in DeLand that in this community that spend a lot of time and energy and resources. But one of the things that's lacking so many times in that environment is an effort and an access to mental health resources. This is what causes a lot of homelessness, is that the people are struggling with mental health issues. And if somebody had a cut leg, we know where to take him and we know how to get him bandaged up, we know how to start to get him healed up, and everything goes, but we tend to not know or not spend money or not prioritize mental health. And I'm gonna tell you, if we're gonna fix the homeless problem, we're gonna have to put an emphasis on mental health resources and make them available to that community.
This is specifically homelessness, not affordable housing.
They just said, what is your plan to deal with the rising homelessness in Volusia County?
And although it kind of goes hand in hand, affordable housing, because there's a lot of people becoming homeless that can't afford rent right now. But I'm thinking about what the Bible says. Jesus Christ, in fact, said, the poor you will always have with you. There are people, Randy was right with his statement, that there are people that are homeless because they choose to, and you're not gonna get them to go to First Step Shelter. We try. They're not gonna go to any shelter until it's so cold or so miserable that they'll go. At First Step, they have the outside portion, they'll go in there, but they don't want rules, they don't want regulations. So we do have to help them, and there is some hope at the end of the rainbow with that because of the bills that were passed to take, all I can think of was oxycodone. I think it was oxycodone, an abused drug. But now we're collecting a lot of millions of dollars in tax money, and we can use that money at the county level for mental health, for addiction. Addiction skyrocketed under COVID, both alcohol and drugs. And the county coroner tells us that suicide skyrocketed. So we now have money available. We're still not allowed to spend it, but the county attorney tells me we're really close, that there's so many strings attached to it. But we have to deal with the people that have mental issues, and everybody else, there's steps that we can take to get them off of the streets and make housing more affordable, first-time housing, small housing, changing zoning regulations, changing parking requirements so that we can build tiny houses in places that where people can start a first home. But we've got to deal with the mentally ill as well.
starting this one off.
Here's one that way.
Okay. Will you commit tonight that you will not vote to raise Volusia County sales tax? And they want a yes or a no.
Yes.
Okay, yeah?
We think.
That was the,
That was the question.
okay.
You're welcome, you have 2 minutes, you're welcome to talk whatever you want on that.
Yeah, I won't raise Volusia County's sales tax. I don't like taxes. I know right now they're a necessary evil to run government. And it's the way that we choose to do it. I led the fight against raising the sales tax when it came up through the cities in the council a few years ago. And not just me, but a group of Volusians, we worked together. And the reason we worked together for that, the purpose was good, just like when the county council a few meetings ago voted to increase millage for roads. Everybody knows we need roads, and so you put a good thing to it, and it's hard to say no to raising your taxes to pay for it. But the purpose of the sales tax was to pay for roads, and I knew enough about government. I wasn't in government yet. I was looking on the outside, and it turns out to be true that the money that was generated to pay for roads was not going to go to the roads that you struggle with every day trying to get to work. It was going to build new roads on the outskirts of town for the brand new developments, building 3,000, 6,000, 1,000 homes all at once, all to completion, and you pay for all of that. The developers need to pay for that, not your tax money. The developers should pay for their own doggone roads, and then stop doing what they call dedicating those roads to you, the taxpayers. They dedicate the roads to the county, which means we then have to maintain it for the rest of that road's life, the rest of the development's life. The developer needs to pay for it, not you and your sales tax.
Well, I think once again, it's pretty easy, but the answer is absolutely not. I would not support doing that, but it wouldn't be up to council. It was up to the voters. It wasn't up to any elected official. It was up to the voters. And you all said no. And you said no loudly. And anybody who's smart in office, they don't listen to that, that's a problem. You said no, so the answer is definitively no.
All right. Okay, this one, Jeff, you're starting off. What is your stance on nonpartisan races, and how would you vote to change the designation to list a person's political party affiliation?
You know, I don't think that I would, and here's the reason. I told you I'm an unapologetic Republican. One of the reasons I ran was to bring people together. And one of the things that divides us the most is what party are you? Democrat, Independent, NPA, Republican, what is Joe Hanush? Libertarian, thank you. From the homeless guy over there. Yeah, it's one of the things that divides us. I think George Washington had it right in his second inaugural address, his farewell address actually. He said, I'm paraphrasing, trust me. He didn't like the parties, because he said the parties are going to divide Americans, and they're going to look to their own benefit and do what's best for that. You know, a party is a corporation, so they're going to do the best they can for that corporation. Now, I identify as a Republican because of the principles that we're supposed to represent that we don't. I just heard Corey Mills last night, and he verified that. We are not representing Republican principles in Washington, D.C. So we need to get people together, especially on the local basis, because when I go out and talk to people, we agree on all of the local issues. Is that a phone call or is that me? Okay. When I go out and talk to the public, it's not about, I don't talk about national politics, because that does create fights, because we are divided. But when we put the partisan politics out of it, and just talk to one another, we agree. Overdevelopment, water quality, flooding, taxes, A fuel farm in Ormond Beach is 1 and 2 right now in many, and actually it's almost every neighborhood. So I like it being nonpartisan in our local races.
Okay?
Is that the question?
Yeah, it was, how would you vote to change the designation to list a person's political party affiliation if you wanted to, so. Don?
Well, the only place I would get to do that is the ballot box, because that's not up to elected officials to decide. It's up to you all. Matter of fact, we've got one with school boards on the ballot this time around. So for me, it's kind of a mixed bag. I like being in this room right now with y'all because y'all are engaged voters, and you get to determine, based on your questions and our answers, where we stand on things. We have too many unengaged voters who want to ask me, well, what party are you? And I give them an answer. Well, I ain't voting for you. Well, why? Because you're not a Democrat. Well, none of us are. Well, I ain't voting for any of them. Or you get the one, well, I'm a registered Republican. I can't say that on my literature, but I can tell you that. But it's a nonpartisan race. And they'll say, oh, you got my vote. Why? Because you're a Republican. The last thing, of course, I want to do is say, well, we're all Republicans in a race. But what I want to have happen is that everybody does what you all are doing right now. Learn a little bit more. It shouldn't be so easy just to simply accept that they're Democrats or Republicans. That's where you start. You find out, okay, that's their party affiliation, great, but I need to know a little bit more. Or that's their party affiliation? Well, okay, I can go look at somebody else, but I'm going to go find out more. It's simply not enough. So that's my take.
I would say this, we need to be one community. I would agree that this needs to be a decision made by the voter, not made by a few people. It needs to be made. It's a ballot initiative, no question about it. If the people want to know, now I can tell you as a candidate and having gone out on the campaign trail and gathered up almost 6,000 signatures that Lisa Lewis cut down to about 4,324, if I remember right. That was a topic. That was a question. It was asked a lot. Are you Republican? Are you Democrat? Are you independent? We always said it was a nonpartisan race. But if you want to know for sure what we are, then yes, I'm a registered Republican and have been the entire time. But really, for me, getting in the race was to try to bring a one community mindset to, for years, those of you that you've heard the East versus the West, right? The highway between and the divide. I work in the East and I live in the West, and quite frankly, I don't feel too much of a divide. I like doing both. I've lived on the East. I prefer to live in the West, but I love my business being in the East. So, from a political standpoint or a party affiliation relative to the candidates that you're going to vote for, really that needs to be something that the ballot, it's on the ballot. You decide. Whatever you say, we'll support. I know the initiative this time is on the school board. There's I think the bigger issue on the school board is how do you think with regard to the curriculum that's being taught, and I don't know that it's necessarily about the party, but they kind of do line up. I don't think it's necessary to decide what the party is, but if the voters say we need to figure it out and you want it, good. How about that? I got it good.
Okay, where do we leave off?
I think it was Don.
All right.
I went first last time.
Okay, so Don, you're up. Okay.
Give him an easy one.
Please.
Well, this is purely subjective, whether it's easy or not, but, yeah. What is your plan to attract more businesses such as manufacturing or technology firms and encouraging to open up operations in Volusia County? I can repeat that if needed.
I can tell you what, my plan is not to do anything, because what we're doing right now is fine. We've seen Avila, we're seeing we've seen a big win with Boeing. We spend a lot of time giving incentives to the big wins. And frankly, one thing that I have seen and learned in my time in working in our chambers of commerce, and I'm reminded constantly as a mayor of a city that 85% of business in this county started small and became large, or it's organically grown. Small business needs to be our concentration. I like the big wins. I like the big dollars they bring. I like the opportunities that those salaries bring. But frankly, they can't stand on their own because they're too far in between. 85% of our business is about small business in this county. And if we don't do a better job of supporting that, the people who are paying our taxes and also paying for some of these incentives out of their tax dollars, then where are we going to be? That's really where our focus needs to be, is how do we support our small businesses in this county?
So I would tell you there's a lot being done every day. I got an email update. I'm a part of a couple of organizations that are really about economic development. One is Team Volusia. It's a public-private partnership between the County of Volusia and a member-based group. And I am the first vice president of that group. The initiatives that are going on in the county, there's a lot of work taking place to get good businesses to come to our county. And by the way, I think you can walk and chew gum at the same time. You don't ever lose focus on small business. I was the former chairman of the Daytona Beach Greater Chamber of Commerce. 85% of the membership is small business. If you attract bigger businesses, small businesses prosper as well. I'm also a paying member, skin in the game, in other words, of the CEO Business Alliance, which is largely responsible in partnership for the beginning of what will be a big Boeing footprint and really will be a big technology footprint for Volusia County. Boeing, not the aircraft, the doors aren't flying out of these things. This is not what they do. This is Department of Defense jobs. Okay, these are significant, big paying jobs, and the commitment to our community is high. It happens to be that space Florida is just a little bit to our south. We get the benefit of that. Said this for years. This doesn't just happen and pop up. It's real, honest to goodness, hard work every day. There are projects right now with the CEO Business Alliance that an energy company coming here, been working on it for 2 years. And they'll bring about 250 jobs that are over $80,000. They've been a company in a different state in the same location for 88 years. I agree, we don't really need to do a lot of incentives because Florida's a pretty good incentive by itself.
Thank you. When I first got elected, I went and talked to actually came to my office to the director of Team Volusia. I also went to the airport and talked to the director of our economic development department there. They knew what was coming because we had been giving out money to governments or to businesses to come here. I call it bribery. Asked them not to do that, but I brought them an alternate answer, and it was called economic gardening. Now, I'm a farmer, I didn't make it up. It came from a man in Colorado who was in charge of several cities of their economic development. Went into a recession, and all the businesses that they gave money to attract there left with the taxpayers' money. And he said, well, we ain't doing that anymore. So he started a program called economic development. And basically what it is you take care of your local businesses. If you build a county or a city that's friendly to the local businesses, which means they have roads, sidewalks, public safety, they even gave help with marketing, identifying potential customers. They gave that to local businesses, and the local businesses thrived, but something else happened. Businesses from all over thought, hey, this is where we want to be. It's colder than hell, but it's a good place to be. And so businesses started coming in there. Well, they listened to me. The Economic Development Department at our airport has an incubator for entrepreneurs to learn to be. It is highly successful. They're creating new businesses that stay here. Keith Norton from Team Volusia said, I don't think they've given an incentive since then. But because they know that we're business friendly, right now, you're gonna hear at the next county council meeting, we're in negotiations right now for a company that will come to our airport because we have developed land on the airport. I'll save it to the end. It's probably the most exciting thing I have tonight.
All right. Okay, so, Randy, I think you're up first. Okay, so this person wants to, do you support the Pioneer Trail interchange?
That question was asked last night. You know, the Pioneer Trail interchange has been on our, I look back and have found history that goes back 40 years. There's how speedy government moves right there, right? And probably thankfully it's taken a long time. I look at the Pioneer Trail interchange not for the sake of development, but in the realm of public safety. You know, we all were fortunate here with this storm with Debbie that went a different direction, and yeah, we got a little wet, but we didn't get any of the real issues that come with it. When it comes to these types of storms that we experienced in Florida, you know, thankfully most of the time we have ample opportunity and time to take the right precautions. But we need access to get out. We need roads to be able to leave if that's what it comes down to. So I look at the Pioneer Trail for two things. It doesn't aid public safety. It's not about does it make it more convenient to build homes. No. Does it aid public safety? And then it has to respect Spruce Creek and the preservation of Spruce Creek and how important that is to our just our quality of life. And so if you can't do it without messing up Spruce Creek, or for that matter, cleaning up Spruce Creek and making it better, then probably gonna have to say no. I hope we can once again do both, walk and chew gum at the same time, make sure we preserve a natural resource, maybe even clean it up and make it better, and then make sure we have an additional public safety opportunity to get out of here if necessary.
This is Pioneer Trail interchange. I brought this for my closing statement, and I can't do it in 2 minutes, but I'll start now and I'll end with it because it's so indicative of our development pattern and what we're doing wrong in Volusia County. It goes to priorities for government. Where do we spend your limited tax dollars that will best affect your life? We have the most dangerous intersection on 95 in the state of Florida. It's US 1 and 95. I wanted money to go to that. We have an interchange in Edgewater. We have an interchange at 44 in New Smyrna. We didn't need an interchange there. In these documents, it says the purpose, this is from the state of Florida, the purpose of building that interchange was for economic development, was to build houses. So we can build houses from 95 all the way to Spruce Creek, which is a outstanding Florida waterway that's also on the impaired Florida waterways list. It's already polluted, and it's not from what I heard last night, a railroad trestle. It's because of the amount of houses being built around it. We don't need to put more houses there, and it's not gonna take one car off of 44 going to the beach on Saturday and Sunday, which is a big problem in New Smyrna. If you look at the roads, it's gonna put an ungodly amount of traffic on Turnbull Bay Road and Pioneer Trail Road, rural roads, 2 lanes. It's gonna ruin those people's lives. It's not gonna help 44. It'll wind around that, go to US 1, and then go to 44 and Canal Road and still clog up New Smyrna. It's a stupid use of taxpayer money when we have limited dollars to build your roads. There's so many other places that $185 million should go.
Well, this is one point where we certainly disagree, because 20 years ago, I think he would have been right. But in 20 years, we have developed it. There are a lot of people living there now. Williamson Boulevard is a county road in District 2 of the county, which is the #1 failing road on the east side of the county. That interchange, because of everything that has been built the last 20 years, would reduce traffic on Williamson by 10%. These are the county's numbers. And that would improve the lives of people that live there right now. Now, I really don't think I need to worry about what's going to be developed or not worried about. I'm worried about the people that live there right now, and they don't have what they need. And some of it is public safety, some of it is access, some of it is use of, when you're able to reduce trips and reduce the length of trips, you also reduce traffic. And it is certainly in part about convenience. Very few people are going to see that interchange and, I need to use Pioneer Trail, unless they actually have business or live there. The people who live there and work there, they're going to be the ones that are the heavy active users of it. And the need is there now. And what is happening now is they're flowing south to 44, or they're flowing north to Dunlawton and clogging up those roads unnecessarily. From an ecological standpoint, I get it. If you build an interchange, you do have to build it right so it does not hinder what's there. And if it's built right and designed right, you can actually improve water retention so it doesn't hinder what's there. There's actually an interchange on the creek right now. It's a quarter of a mile away at Dunlawton. We can't make that go away. This one's 5 miles up the road. And what's protecting that, the difference between that, we have Leonia Preserve that's right there. And the city of Port Orange helped buy Leonia Preserve so that will be there to protect the creek forever.
All right, next one, Jeff, you're gonna start us off, and that is kind of related to what you guys were just talking about, actually, but question is, what is your plan to stop the damage such as runoff to our water quality, and how will you improve our water quality? So stopping damage and improving water quality.
We have to change our current development pattern. We've got to stop developing the way that we are right now. Our current development pattern, you see it all over the county. I probably don't even have to tell you, but here's what we do. We have areas that are set aside to not build on. It's lowlands, it's wetlands, it's places we've always agreed should never be built on. But a developer will come in and buy that land and say, okay, I want to change the zoning now. And he gets a zoning change and a land use change to go from 1 house per 10 acres to 74 houses per acre or more for the apartments that you're seeing. So then we go in and drain that wetland, clear cut it, bring in thousands of cubic yards of fill to lift it up enough to build a house on, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 feet above all the surrounding neighborhoods, and then cover all of that land, 80% of that land, with driveways, houses, patios, all the stuff, so that the water that used to hit there and infiltrate and go to the aquifer now runs off to the neighborhoods around it and floods. It's flooding neighborhoods from one end of the county to another. I'm working with 2 neighborhoods right now that are looking for some relief for it. It's really expensive. Once you cause it, you can't just go in and you can't dig out that 6 feet of fill. But we can stop it now. The way to do it is what I said before: learn to say no and then go to low impact development. Woo.
That's part of the equation, changing the way we develop it. And certainly with I mentioned earlier the number of building permits the county itself is issuing, the 727, we're adding to that number every year. But even if you change the way we develop right now, that doesn't fix the problem. The problem is an existing problem, and we can't make that go away simply by changing the way we develop. Certainly, developing better will help future and not cause even more problems for these people. But what I'm seeing is not only do we have problems where we lack retention in older parts of the cities, but what we have going on up in other areas affects what's going on. So In Port Orange, we have our own issues, particularly in our older part of the city, and then Daytona Beach floods. And they have no outfall on that canal. Where does that water come? We've already got enough water, and we've got their water coming down the canal at us. So what we do for each other impacts each other. My mom and dad flooded out during Ian, and I didn't know it at the time. I was grateful, despite the most stressful part of their life when they stayed with us, that we lost mom shortly thereafter. So we spent some good quality time together because of that. And God does work in mysterious ways. But it focused me on that area of town that they came from in Daytona Beach. They lived since 1964. Dad still has that house. What we do in these older areas, we can change what we do moving forward, but we still need to address what we have, and we need to do it aggressively. We're just not right now. We're doing it in piecemeal. The city over here, the city over there, but we need a more regional approach.
All right. Great.
I think we all, for a number of reasons, agree that development, we need to get a better handle on it. No question. Managing it is important. You know, if you believe in the Constitution, you absolutely understand that property owners do have rights, and we got to be careful about trying to tell them that they don't, and we can't, and you're not going to get to do it. But we can certainly be a lot more careful about granting variances to those things. And at some point in time, we're going to have to make an example. We're going to have to actually do that. You know, I don't know why we're still talking about it several years later. Nothing has really changed. Well, according to the mayor, it's gotten worse. Maybe according to you, it's gotten worse. Here's how I figure it out, all right? It used to take you 10 minutes to go to the grocery store, or go to church, or go wherever you're gonna go. Now it's taking you 20, 25 minutes. So part of this is we've got to make sure we have the infrastructure to take care of this, right? And that will help the process for sure. How we develop, how much development, the standards for development. Because once upon a time, you know, there was plenty of room out here. You could build to a certain code, and it was what was going to run off to an empty lot. Not anymore, right? So I'm not sure that we're considering our neighbors. In fact, I would say we're not considering our neighbors and how it affects our neighbor, what we're doing today. So I think when I came here, we had a little over 300,000 people. Now we have almost 600,000 people. We got to get our standards together, and we got to understand that we're building next to other subdivisions that might be 25 years there, and we're putting a new one in, and now we're going to create a problem for them. So I think we agree on getting a handle on development. We might have a different way to go about it, and okay, there you go. Thank you.
All right, so at this point, I'm going to ask all of you, we do have a handful of questions left. If they are willing, do you want to continue on to the forum? Because they do have closing comments.
Democracy in action.
Amen.
We'll work in reverse order. And Don, if you want to start us off, you have 3 minutes for closing comments. Please, if I could have everybody's attention.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you all showed up tonight. That in itself is very important. It shows that you all are engaged. This is what we need in Volusia County everywhere. Not every community is like this, some more than others, but for the most part, we have people that want to know what's going on. I'm grateful that you all are here. I will hang out afterwards, so anybody that has individual questions, I'll stay here until they're answered. At the end of the day, though, all the candidates in this race are motivated for what's good for Volusia County. We might have different ideas. I personally think experience matters. I've been doing this a long time. I mentioned before my opening, the 5 type A personalities that you've got to manage to get where you need. We can talk about the right things, or we can get things done. We can talk about it, or we can get things done. And I'm about getting things done. And sometimes I'd rather go try, make mistakes and learn from them and fix it and move on than do nothing and continue to talk and have nothing happen at all. I'll be the first to say, hey, I'm not perfect. I have made mistakes. That's life. The first thing you do when you make a mistake is own it, fix it, and move on. That's a big part of life, and sometimes we forget that as politicians. It's easy to talk. Mr. Brower and I agree on a whole lot of things. Some things like Pioneer Trail, not so much. That's okay. You're here talking about it. We're here for you. And I appreciate that. I don't need to take up much more time except to say I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for the opportunity to engage my opponents. And I think that if anything else, you all in this room are better for it. Thank you.
Closing? Yeah, we'll just work our way back.
Okay, 3 minutes. So I'm not going to read my whole file here, but I am going to use it because it's so illustrative of what's happening. You've already heard it said tonight that we can't just go in and change our current development pattern. That's false. We can't. We could change it. All it takes is 4 willing partners to say we'll do it. Right now, I have 3 willing partners that are very thoughtful and looking at the way that we're developing, looking at zoning. The legal ramification says that recognizes the fact that you have private property rights, not just the developer who's buying the land and wanting to destroy your neighborhood. He's not going to, that's probably not in his heart. They want to build as many houses as possible to make as much money as possible. They're in business. I'm for profit. That's fine. But they have, in America, we have always been respectful of our neighbors. That's how we built the greatest country in the world. Pioneer Trail had one purpose. You've heard evacuation. That's not what the state said. It said to develop that area. We did preserve some land out there. It's a beautiful preserve. We need, the rest of that land where they want to develop ought to be preserved. The Florida Wildlife Corridor wants it, and the Volusia Conservation Corridor wants it. They will pay top dollar to the developer. But we don't try very hard to ask them because we want the development, because we want the tax dollars. The tax dollars are not paying for the development. So here's the problem. I'm going to be as clear as I can. I need one more vote on the county council to stop overdevelopment, to change the way that it's happening. Money and influence is the cause of that overdevelopment. It's the absolute cause. You're not going to inject more money into campaigns and think you're going to get a different result this time. We did that in the midterm elections. Candidates ran that were for responsible growth and to really do something about overdevelopment. And they changed their campaign rhetoric to match 3 guys that were absolutely serious about it. But the Republican Party of Volusia County supported the other 3 that said, okay, me too, I'm gonna do that. They were funded by the development community. Follow the money. They were funded by the development community. Once they got in, they vote for the developments that come before us. You need one more vote, not one less vote. I'm the voice that has never backed up, that has always voted for you, and I'll continue to do that. Bring me one more vote.
It's my pleasure to be here with you tonight, and I thank you all for coming out. It's great to be in the midst of a bunch of people who care. So thank you for doing that. I think I would tell you I'm a little bit concerned. I've heard this. I have 3 votes several times. I actually thought it was just and maybe a misspoke one time. I don't believe I'll ever be able to tell you that I have 2 votes, 3 votes, 4 votes, 5 votes, because Sunshine Law really doesn't allow you to do that. I mean, you've got to have the open discussion, the open debate, bring the subject up, make the decisions, and collectively do that together. So I'm a little concerned about that, but I understand maybe in patterns, and maybe the pattern's been developed. Not calling the question. I'm just saying, you know, I think it needs to be a lot more open than that. From my standpoint, as the non-politician in the room, and never held the office, I know that one of the things, in addition to people asking about what party affiliation were you when we were out there running around and trying to get votes, was they would say that they don't trust government. One of the reasons, and the chairman's right, that the sales tax potential 1%, 1 penny cent sales tax failed is because people didn't trust government. I mean, that's clear. You go to Marion County, on the other hand, they did a similar initiative. They posted what they were going to do, they did it, and they actually went back to the citizens and they did it again 5 years later because they lived up to that standard. I'm going to say to you, if you elect me, I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I told you, I laid out a plan. Hold me accountable. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that I'm the perfect candidate. I haven't met one. I voted for a lot of imperfect people along the way. You will probably vote for an imperfect person. But one of the things for sure, that when I make a decision and when I try to lead a group of people, no matter who they are, whomever you elect, I promise you I'll work with them. I'll do the very best. The process for making the right decision has to be A, is it legal, and B, does it affect the quality of life of the people that live here in a positive way? That's what I got: truth, trust, and transparency. I hope you vote for me sometime between now and August 20th, and then we'll see what happens the rest of the way. Thank you for being here.